One of the main things that make computers so powerful is that they can quickly do the same tasks or calculations over and over again. One way to tell a computer to do this is by using loops. A loop is a kind of programming expression that lets you run a section of code over and over again. Python has two types of main loops, just like other programming languages, for loops and while loops. For loops are the subject of today's video. A for loop is a type of loop used to repeat a block of code a specific number of times. In most cases, we use loops with lists when we know how many times we need to repeat a piece of code. For example, I have created a list of 5 delicious fruits, and for every fruit in the list, I want to print the fruit name and that it is a delicious fruit, like this. Apple is a delicious fruit, plum is a delicious fruit, and so on. One way to do this is to use 5 print commands like this and use the list index to get every item from the list. That works for short lists, but what if my list has 1000 items? I will need 2 days to type all the print commands. This is where the for loop comes in. I delete all the print commands and I simply type. For, that's a word that tells the computer that we want to create a loop. Fruit, that's a variable we can call anything we want, but since we work with a list of fruits, the name fruit is a descriptive name. In, fruits, that's the list we want to work with, colon. Now we type the code we want to execute for every item on the list. Each command must be written after 2 spaces. 2 spaces, print, f, curly brackets, fruit is delicious. Let's run it and we will explain how it works in a second. As you can see, with just 2 lines of code, we achieve the same result as before. We can add more commands to the for loop if we wish. They just have to be indented with 2 spaces. For example, let's add another print statement. 2 spaces, print, yummy. As you can see, when we run the code, the program prints both lines for each item in the list. Let's see how it works with an animation to make it clearer. That is the syntax of a for loop that iterates through the fruits list. Allow me to show the elements of the list in this animation to make it clearer. This blue arrow will now show us which line of code is being executed at any given time. Okay, let's see what happens. The first time the for loop is executed, the first item of the list is selected and is copied into the fruit variable. Then the next 2 lines of code are executed one after another. Then the second item from the list is selected and copied to the fruit variable. Again, the next 2 print commands are executed one after another. This happens for every list item. Let's watch the animation until the end. I believe you now understand what happens when a loop is executed. Iterating through the items of a list is not the only reason to use a for loop. Sometimes we want to execute a block of code a specific number of times. Let's say I want to print 6 times the word hello. Since I know how many times I want to run a block of code, I will use a for loop. For, number, that's a variable, in, range, parenthesis, 6, colon, 2 spaces, print, hello. Let's run it to see what happens and I will explain it afterward. As you can see, it prints hello 6 times as I wanted. For this, I used the range function and the number 6. The range function creates a temporary list of 6 numbers from 0 to 5. So, as before, the for loop actually iterates through a list of numbers. We can print these numbers if we wish because we save them in the number variable. Let's do this. We add another print command. 2 spaces, print, number. If we now run the code, we can see that the program prints hello and then the number from 0 to 5. This example can demonstrate the power of computers to do things at an amazing speed. Let's say I wanted to print hello 10,000 times. Easy, I just change the number here. Range 10,000 and I press run. Check this out, the computer has just printed the word hello and counted to 10,000 in just a few seconds. Cool, huh? The for loop is a very powerful tool and we are going to use it a lot in the future. Let's now practice what we have learned with a simple exercise. Create a program that will ask the user to enter 5 numbers from the keyboard. The program will then print the numbers provided by the user in ascending order from the lowest to the highest. Please stop the video now and try to figure out how to do this exercise on your own. First of all, we want to store 5 values from the user, so we are going to need a list. So let's create an empty list. Numbers is equal square brackets. Now we want to ask the user for a number 5 times. So we're going to use a for loop and the input command. For number in range 5, colon, 2 spaces. We now need to store the user number in a variable. User number is equal to input, type a number. Do you remember that when we get something from the user using the input command, it is always a string? So we need to convert it to either an int or a float because we expect to get a number from the user. 2 spaces, user number is equal to float user number. Now we need to add the number to the list. We can use the append command. Numbers.append user number. Okay, we got the numbers from the user and we have stored them in the numbers list. We now need to sort them. Easy. Numbers.sort. Now all we have to do is to print all the items of the list using a for loop again. For number in numbers, colon. 2 spaces, print number. Let's run the program to see if it works. As you can see, the program at first asks for 5 numbers. I enter them and then it prints them all in ascending order. Cool. This was not an easy exercise. In one program, we applied a lot of what we had recently learned. Don't worry if you are having trouble figuring it out. We will go over these things again and again until you understand how to use them properly. Remember that practicing your skills is essential for becoming proficient in programming. So until the next video, keep practicing everything we have learned so far and leave any questions in the comment section below. Thanks!